Let's go to Saturday morning. That's a standalone game on Friday night, kind of an appetizer to a full slate of games on Saturday that starts in Happy Valley. Penn State, the 6th seed, hosting number 11 SMU. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Central Time. This is on TNT. This is one of those kind of subleasing specials that they've got going on. So
do we get Chuck and the crew on the NBA Today or inside the NBA
goodness,
crew?
I would love that.
Please, God, please.
That would be fantastic. The biggest thing that when I saw the TV breakdown, congrats to TNT. What does it take for Penn State to get a home game at night? They're playing all of their games at noon Eastern. And, it's going to be a fun environment. But, boy, those students have to be just beyond mad to not get to play a big game under the lights. I mentioned off the top, it's supposed to be snowy at least, snowy conditions. There's a good deal of snow on the ground, as you've probably seen on Twitter right now. It's been 70 and muggy.
29 is the high currently projected.
Yeah, that's brutal. Wind chill in the teens. It's 70 and muggy here in Dallas, so a little bit of an environment change, to say the least, for the Mustangs. First off, have to give our flowers to SMU. I mean, this is a team that, it was a sexy pick to run through a weaker ACC schedule. It was certainly a forgiving schedule that they got as they joined the Power 4 ranks. But this was also a team that had no history of winning against the top tier competition, at least not in recent years, right? I mean, Rhett Lashley, that was kind of the one thing that was missing from his American tenure at SMU, was beating Power 4 teams. And he'd been close against TCU and Oklahoma and Boston College in the Fenway Bowl, but he was just still missing that win. And then SMU goes on a tear this year, and they rebounded after the loss from BYU. They commit to Kevin Jennings. And ever since then, it really has been same pony, new express for SMU. On the other side, for Penn State, I'm stuck coming back to the question, can James Franklin win a big game? The facts are that he is 3-19 against top 10 teams in his coaching career. He is winless against top 5 teams since he got to Penn State. Now, fortunately for him, SMU is neither a top 10 or a top 5 team, so maybe the technicality doesn't apply. But let's start there. Are you concerned about Penn State and their coaching staff in this game?
Absolutely. I think you haven't been paying attention to the last 10 years of college football almost, if you're not concerned about that at least a little bit. It seems like Penn State always does fine when the spotlight is off of them, but when the spotlight's shining brightest, they have not performed well, regardless of if it's against a ranked team or if it's Ohio State, Michigan, someone else in the Big Ten. Like, I know they played well against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, but they still came up short in that one. When the spotlight's shining the brightest, Penn State has not risen to the occasion way more often than not under James Franklin, and that's big alarm bells going off for me.
I do think, to give him a little bit of credit, and again, this is really difficult to do when you are, 3-19 or whatever it is, to give him a little bit of credit, it's been closer this year, right? I think that's why they're in this position they're in. They haven't really lost the weird off game, and obviously Ohio State, that's a 7-point loss, and, Oregon, they came up short by 8. They've been closer. It feels like it's been a lot harder and a lot further away for Penn State. It's always kind of felt to me like when you watch Penn State out there, in the Big Ten, you put them up there against Ohio State, or, when Michigan's been good, or, even sometimes when Michigan State's been good. It's always felt like they're kind of just we're okay, but we don't really have what it takes. We don't really belong on the same field as y'all. It didn't look like that to me this year. It looked like, you weren't there, you didn't win, you didn't quite get it done, couldn't push it across the finish line, but you belonged on the same field. You were that team that deserved to be on the same field and in that conversation. And so while they didn't get it done so far this year, I'm not so sure that can't start up this weekend.
I'm really fascinated to see how Penn State holds up in the trenches. I'm sure a lot of people, the first thing that they think of when they think of SMU is not how stout they've been on the offensive and defensive line, but when you look at the numbers and when you put the tape on, that's exactly what SMU has kind of built their winning ways on. The offensive line was shaky, to say the least, to start out the season, but they've really progressed this year. The defensive line, Rhett Lashley built through the portal. I mean, this is a bunch of D1 of course, FBS, Power 4 transfers. A lot of them coming from that Miami pipeline that Lashley established when he was the offensive coordinator there. It's a lot of beef up the middle, and it's a lot of speed off the edges. And so SMU coming into this actually has the 4th ranked rushing defense in the country. They're giving up less than 3 yards per carry. Well, guys, Penn State's offense, as much as the flash and sizzle of Andy Kotelnicki's scheme is displayed through the air, Penn State's offense goes on the ground. They are the 19th ranked rushing attack in the country, 202 yards on the ground. The law firm of Allen and Singleton has been the bread and butter for Penn State. So I'll throw it back to you guys. The numbers for SMU are impressive, but they also are prone to give up some chunk plays. Does Penn State have an outright advantage in the run game, or is that something that you think maybe keeps us closer than the experts are predicting?
I'll do you one further, Mitch. I'll take SMU to win this one outright. I got it to score somewhere around the 30 to 27 range. I think it'll be close, but running the football and being able to stop the run, that's going to travel. No matter how cold it is, no matter if it's snowing, you can win games by running the football and stopping the run. Both of these teams are doing that quite well. But when Penn State's either had a scare this year or outright lost the game that they lost to Ohio State, they gave up over 4 yards a carry. That's only happened 3 times this year. It was against Bowling Green, which, if you remember, was almost a second massive MAC upset in week 2 that had to Notre Dame. It happened against Ohio State when they actually did lose. And then it happened against Oregon when they lost the Big Ten championship game. If SMU can average over 4 yards a carry, I think that they can win this game, because that's going to put the Penn State defense on its heels, a position that they're not typically in. And I think SMU has the horses to do it. If they can keep that up all game, that's going to be a dogfight all the way to the end. And I think they can find a way to pull it out.
I think this is your proof that teams are going to need their home field. I think this is going to be the first game where you really see it come into play. Obviously, it's the way that it is, you'd rather have the home field, but I think home field gets Penn State across the line. I think if they play this one in Dallas, SMU has a real shot at winning, because they're going to be playing this one in extreme cold. Something that a lot of these guys, from SMU is probably not used to, probably not going to, be super familiar with. At least the quarterback, we know quarterback's been a Texas boy, so we're not really concerned about, or we're not really, I don't think projecting him to go up there and handle himself that well in the cold. I just think Penn State has the advantage. You add that with the whiteout, the fact that they got their home field. Yes, I get it. It's not a night game, all right? And I'd rather that game be a night game, right? It's a tragedy they can't get whiteout at home at night. That's a little bit of a disappointing one, but I just think that environment, that stadium, that crowd, plus the fact that you're putting a good team on the field that can run the football. And I think because this game is going to be so cold and a little bit messy, I do think that it's going to make this a very run heavy type game. I know that SMU's done it so far this year. I think that runs out when you let Penn State just kind of load the box and do their thing. So I'm going to take this one to be kind of a yucky, low-scoring game. Give me something like 17-7 or 20-10, but I'm going to take Penn State to come out on top.
I think this one does have a flavor that favors Penn State here because of the weather. I don't necessarily know that I'm expecting Kevin Jennings not to handle himself exclusively because of the cold, but KJ has turned the ball over quite a few times this year, and that was what got them behind the sticks early against Clemson, a couple of bad turnovers, and then the defense does give up some chunk plays. And if Penn State can establish that running game to any degree of efficiency early, I think that opens up the play action playbook for Kotelnicki and Drew Aller, who, by the way, congratulations to him. He's coming back for his senior season. I think that's a massive win for Penn State and their championship hopes, not only, obviously the rest of this playoff run, but next year as well. I think the playbook for Penn State is going to be much more open potentially than SMU's playbook is. Penn State takes care of the football a little bit better than SMU does. And I think the bigger bodies over and over again, the depth for Penn State's defensive line, their linebackers as well. I mean, you talk about Abdul Carter getting to come off the edge. I think maybe this is where the magic for the Express runs out a little bit. I've got it in a lower scoring game. I think Penn State maybe scores a touchdown late to win this one 27-21. I think this is going to be a fascinating game, though. I don't know that there's a lot of separation between these two teams. if the weather is truly a neutralizing factor, I think this is going to be a quick game on Saturday morning, especially if there aren't a lot of turnovers. So you blink and you might miss this one in Happy Valley, but I'm going to take Penn State to win as well. I'll flip you this bonus question. If Penn State wins this one, but then loses in their next game, and they've got Boise State, does James Franklin's legacy or his reputation, does it upgrade at all if he goes 1-1 in that scenario?
Not if they lose to Boise State. I love the Boise State Broncos this year. They're one of my favorite teams in all of college football, and I think that they're criminally underrated, and they're going to pose a problem. But from a perception standpoint, that would be a not good look.
I'm with you. Yeah, you got to win both of those games if you want an increase. I don't think it decreases if you lose to Boise. I think if you lose to SMU, you could be talking about a decrease to the legacy. But I just don't think that you make much of a change by losing to Boise. I think that's just kind of like, okay, we tried.
I think SMU and Penn State is the one that I'm most interested to watch because I think it can go either way on the flip of a coin.
Gracious, how about that?